I was interested in the story of Katherine Johnson ever since I saw the movie Hidden Figures, a film about her from 2017. Watching the movie turned her into my hero, inspiring me to stand up for my rights and persevere through hardship. She did a great deal in the space industry and broke barriers for women and Black Americans. I hope that by sharing her story, more people will be inspired to speak out when they're mistreated and to treat everyone with kindness. The Cold War sparked a military and technological race between the United States and the Soviet Union, bringing a significant increase in federal spending towards science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, better known as STEM, research and education. The workplace demographic was already changing due to the demand for Black and female workers in the 1940s during World War II, but the launch of the Soviet satellite Sputnik in 1957 intensified the space race as well as the demand for human computers. Government priority and attention shifted its focus to sending the first U.S. manned spaceship into space with the creation of NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. The United States was determined to beat the Soviet Union, but had inner struggles within the country with the peak of the Jim Crow era and the rising feminist movement. From 1940 to 2017, Katherine Johnson impacted U.S. society by inspiring the civil rights movement, women's rights advocacy by breaking down gender barriers in STEM, and advocating education through mentorship later in her life. However, barriers were broken in STEM before Katherine Johnson due to NACA hiring different races and genders in the 1940s. The 20th century saw a major societal shift in attitude towards Black Americans and women. The civil rights movement heavily took off in the 1960s, however, this had been a struggle for centuries before, the same for women. The Equal Rights Act proposed in the 1920s signified a growing hunger for women to gain independence, and Black Americans were tired with their treatment from their country. With President Franklin Roosevelt's signing of Executive Order 8802, racial discrimination was barred in the defense industry, and mathematician Katherine Johnson jumped at the chance to work at NASA's predecessor, the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics (NACA), in 1953. At the time, very few women, especially women of color, worked in fields of STEM, their little numbers shown in a photo of the woman working at NASA circa the 1960s, with Katherine Johnson and her coworkers at NASA, Johnson in the second row, second from the left. This image shows the changes that were being made to hire different races and genders while segregation was still legal. It marks an important time in history when companies began to hire more on merit rather than masculinity and whiteness, with the purpose to show the women working at NASA and highlight the changing and demographic of the workplace, while giving them recognition. Johnson is one of the few Black women in the photo, setting another milestone by further diversifying an already newly diverse group. One of Johnson's many contributions to science and mathematics during her time at NASA was her 1960 report about calculations for placing an aircraft into orbit. This was the first time a woman in the Flight Research Division received credit as an author for a research report. Not only was she a woman writing the report, but she was a Black woman writing a book at a time when Black authors faced unfair treatment in the writing and publishing world. This book gives historical context toward the lack of diverse voices and workers at NASA previously and the progress they were making, not only towards diversity but also scientifically, foreshadowing the work that would be done to send the first U.S. man into space. Freedom 7 Mercury was the capsule that took Alan Shepard into space in 1962, creating nationwide coverage on the event, with Johnson gaining recognition for her contribution to the launch, represented in the Pittsburgh Courier newspaper from March of 1962. The headline of the newspaper reads, "Lady Mathematician Played Key Role in Glenn Spaceflight," publicly acknowledging her gender, reflecting the attitude and point of view of the country in the 1960s. It was rare that a woman would have such a powerful role, and even rarer that she would be given public recognition. Johnson's recognition played a role in normalizing giving credit to women publicly and furthered progress in the women's movement. While Johnson played a major role in furthering gender equality in STEM, it's arguable that much of the change happened before she worked at the NACA. A Norfolk Journal article from 1943 shows the recruitment of Black female mathematicians at NACA during World War II. This article, with the title "Paving the Way for Women Engineers," shows that a shift in public necessity and acceptance of Black and female workers had already been made prior to Katherine Johnson's employment, which happened a decade later. While this shows the progress made towards diversity in the workplace before Johnson, the claim that she heavily impacted the women's and civil rights movement still stands with her persistence of equality in the workplace and groundbreaking achievements. Before paving the way for Black and female workers at NASA, Katherine Johnson was breaking barriers in education by becoming the first Black woman to attend the math program at West Virginia University. Johnson continued her influence in education with her autobiography, Reaching for the Moon, the autobiography of NASA mathematician Katherine Johnson, published in 2019. She used her life story to inspire readers and encourage education, intending her book to be read by young audiences. She inspires them to follow their dreams and reach for the stars while overcoming obstacles and to fight for their rights. By writing about her family's struggle during the Jim Crow era, she continues to educate younger audiences about the country's history and helps offset racism and sexism in modern-day society. Along with the book, the Katherine Johnson Foundation offers educational opportunities for young learners such as books, resources, news, and events to provide people with ways to connect in the field of STEM. The foundation promotes education and carrying out Johnson's legacy. It provides scholarships and financial aid to students to make sure everyone has an opportunity to get an education. With this foundation, Johnson's advocacy for education has continued past her lifetime and continues to help our world today. While barriers were broken in STEM with the NACA hiring different races and genders in the 1940s, Katherine Johnson impacted U.S. society in STEM by inspiring the civil rights movement, women's rights advocacy by breaking down gender barriers, and advocating education through mentorship later in her life.